Hi, welcome to this live webinar and welcome. Today, I want to discuss specifically the Cyprus health tax. It's a new tax introduced in the last years, but it's going to take effect because in this current year, the Cyprus government have now required all tax residents of Cyprus to declare a full tax return, whatever their income. And one of the reasons for that is to capture this health tax from worldwide income from people living and working abroad. So that's what we want to focus on. Last week, we went into the deadlines and the due dates for Cyprus taxes as a whole. And we've got a download that's available from our website at ProACTpartnership.com. But for this time, we're just going to specifically just look at the health tax. Now, if you're living or working abroad in Cyprus and you're a sole trader or you're an employee as a tax resident, then your health tax is paid as part of your income and social insurance contributions. So you may not see that you are paying that tax, even though that has been an extra cost for any social insurance contributions over the last 18 months. And we're talking about tax returns that are due now, which date back to January 21. So this is health taxes due from then. What expats doing a return for the first time or this year need to be aware of is that if there is worldwide income or other income, then health tax may be due on that. Many expats in Cyprus enjoy non-dom status. Non-dom status means that you have zero tax on dividends, a zero defence tax on property rental income, and zero tax on interest. So that saves you up to 30%. So non-doms get a very preferential rate on investment income from those sources of income, dividends, interest, and property rental income, but it doesn't exclude from the health tax. The health tax applies to everything, and it's a flat rate tax. So for the purpose of the exercise, I'm not going into all the different categories of health tax. We're just looking at the 2.65% tax, which is charged flat rate on worldwide income. So everybody needs to do a tax return now. What if you've got £1,000 of interest coming from your bank interest overseas in an offshore bank account or the UK? Well, that is liable to the 2.65% tax. So it's reportable. As a non-dom, you pay no tax on the interest, no income tax, no defence tax, but you will have the health tax to pay. Similarly, if you're a personal service company and you're operating doing dividends, so a personal service company based out of Cyprus can pay 0% tax on their dividends. So they can earn income below and pay no income tax, and dividends and get no dividend tax. But if you're drawing 100,000 euros of dividends a year, you'll have the health tax to pay, which will be 265 euros. If you've got a little share portfolio and that share portfolio is generating you £100 a year or £500 a year of dividends, in the past, you may not have had to report that in Cyprus. You've got no income tax liability, so you wouldn't have had to report it. The dividends are exempt, they're 0%. You wouldn't have had to report it. But now, those dividends are liable to health tax. So if you receive 500 euros of dividends in a year, there's no dividend tax, there's no income tax, but there is the health tax, which would be about 130 euros to pay on that. Okay, so it's catching everybody at every level of whatever their income, even for relatively small amounts. So the big change in Cyprus this year is that everyone needs to do a full year tax return, and everyone has a liability to health taxes. Okay, so how do we calculate that, and how do we work that out? So as we say, we're excluding income tax and we're excluding earned income and self-employed income because that's already paid health tax in their social insurance returns. So we're looking at our worldwide income. If you want to download the guide, go to our website at proactpartnership.com, and there's a guide that's available there. Or watch it again at our YouTube channel here, ProACT Partnership, and subscribe and share this information with your friends and colleagues and associates who want that deeper knowledge about Cyprus. So, depending on the amount, depends upon when you declare it. But essentially, what we're doing at the moment is completing the full tax return for 2021. Once that is completed, if there's any health taxes to pay, you can then make that payment. And that payment, that balancing payment of health tax that is due, based upon income between January and December 2021, is payable by the end of July this year. Okay, so you need to complete that return. Until you've completed the return, you can't pay any balance of health tax. Now, if you've got a share portfolio, if you've got dividends being paid, if you've got interest being received from a bank, or property rental income being paid to an agent, all that income is reported. Your pension income is reported. Everything is reported to your home country's tax authority, and they share the information with your country of tax residence. So if you're resident in Cyprus and they know your home tax number, and the information will be shared around the world. So it will come to Cyprus eventually. So discreet, not declaring it because they don't know, that doesn't cut it anymore, because the exchange of information will bring that up. So eventually it will be found out. So it's better to do the report and get the tax paid. So if you didn't pay any tax on the income last year, you now have to report for that worldwide income, January to December 21. If you need any help and guidance, ProACT Partnership can help you with tax registration, non-dom registration, to ensure you don't get additional taxes, but also to allow you to register to make the tax return online. It's only an online tax return for individuals in Cyprus. So you need to have a tax registration and then be registered to submit the return online, and then submit your return to then get the calculation for how much health tax is due by the end of July. Now, the second step is that in the current year. So in theory, if you've got 100,000 dividends or bank interest being received a year, or property rental income that is not being taxed for the health tax at source, you should make a payment for the current year as you go along. And those payments are again due in July and December, so at the half year and the end of year. So in theory, to be correct, by July, you should also be doing an additional self-assessment to confirm how much tax you need to pay on your income between January and June 2022. So for the current year as well. So we're finishing off last year still, but we're into the current year and the current year's payments. So there's a couple of years of income that we're looking at and reporting for this health tax. So if you've got 10,000 a month income liable to this health tax, that could amount up to quite a lot of money. But if you've got £100 a month income that's liable for health tax over the last 18 months, it's still something. And if you don't do it, the penalties could start to apply, or interest could start to apply. So by the end of July 22, with this new ruling that everyone has to complete a tax return and everybody has to declare their worldwide income and the new health tax, then everybody's got a bit of tax to pay on their worldwide income. The only way is if you've got no income at all. Okay. In the past, this wouldn't have been picked up. It's only that it's a new health tax that it will be picked up. Now, the health tax was introduced in 2019. Now, you may not have paid it in 2019 or 20. And it's only in 21 that it's being enforced. Now, whether they will retrospectively review that is a point we don't know. Whether they will enforce small payments below 20, 30 euros, we don't know. However, it's important to get the reporting right so that you can have your tax records correct and you're not going to be open to an investigation or 2 or 3 years' time. As I said earlier, non-DOMs can get exemption from property rental, dividend and bank interest income. It's not dividends and interest and property rental income is not necessarily taxed as income, but there is a flat rate tax. It's not the health tax, it's called something else, but that is potentially due on those incomes. So expats pay 0% for that defence tax liability if they're registered. So if you're not registered as a non-dom, before you do your return, you need to do that registration. We've covered this in the past, and if you need help with that, contact us at ProACTPartnership.com and we'll help get you registered. But you need to do that now to get your return in by the end of July. Even though you're non-dom, you've still got a liability to the health tax. So if you've got property rental income from the UK of 10,000, you've got no income tax liability in Cyprus because it's below the 17,000. But you would have and you wouldn't have any defence tax liability, which is 3%, but you would have the 2.65% health tax on that 10,000. So from a zero tax, you now have some health tax to pay on that income. There is one circumstance in which you can get an exemption from the health taxes, and that's if you're in receipt of a state pension. So if you receive a state pension from Cyprus or from Europe, including the UK, then you can get exemption from the health tax, because in effect the medical insurance for pensions is paid on a reciprocal basis between countries. So even new expats to the UK can still get that exemption, and all EU expats can do that. But again, you need to register your pension in Cyprus, your state pension in Cyprus, to get exemption from that tax. So if you've got an investment portfolio where you've got a property and rental income, which is and dividend and interest income, which is substantial as a retired person, and you have a state pension, then you can get exemption from those incomes as well. So that's something to look out for. Okay, so it is quite complicated. There's payments due in July and December. There's a tax return due each year. For an individual, it's due online by July, which confirms the income from the previous year and any balancing payment that needs to be made. All expats with any income will de facto have a health tax liability unless they're exempt from the health tax because of a receipt of a state pension. For more information and guidance, contact us at ProACTPartnership.com. We offer free reviews to all expat and all new inquiries, whether an existing or a new client. We've got a retained client service which can help and guide you getting the registrations online. You can register there at proactpartnership.co.uk. But if you need help filling out the returns, our Cyprus office is able to give you the advice that you need. But contact us at proactpartnership.com. And most of all, subscribe to this channel. Keep up to date with living and working abroad, expat matters. We've discussed the last couple of weeks specifically Cyprus, but we look out for UK expats living and working abroad, and we cover a number of different jurisdictions around the world for expats relocating around the EU, UK, and the world. Thanks very much for listening, and we hope you'll contact us next time. For our retained clients, we now have a question and answer session in our private Facebook group, which you can join us there. And look out for me later on Twitter Spaces, where we'll do an open mic session. If you've got any questions, you can join us on Twitter to ask those questions there. Thank you very much for listening. I have to go to the glasses to see if there's any comments. Okay, so good morning, Paraka. I hope I've spelled that right. Are you living, Rawa, in Cyprus? Would be the question. And have you got your registration for the tax return? So it's been thrust on everybody late. There's no warning of this. So if you're living in Cyprus at any level, you need to register now to get that tax return submitted. Thanks very much for listening. Subscribe to the channel, share it with your friends, get some more people in, and follow us next time when we look at some more expat tax issues for people living and working abroad.